Good evening and welcome to the February 17th, 2022 Transportation Committee. My name is Debbie Drawe. I'm on the Penfield Town Board, and I'm happy to announce that I am taking over as chair of the Transportation Committee. So I have some wonderful, committee people that have brought wealth of knowledge and experience to the town, so I'm happy to be able to work with them. We have residents Lori Enos, Mary Sweeney, Jason, Tim Freeler, here at the dais, and in the audience we have Linda Cummings, our secretary, thank you, Mark Valentine, Eric Tate. I believe on Zoom we have...
I don't believe we have anybody on Zoom. We may have one of the sheriffs on Zoom at some point during the meeting.
Great, okay, thank you, and welcome tonight, everyone. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Second business is the approval of minutes. The committee back in November 18th, if you all can remember, and you have your minutes and went through your minutes. I know it was a while ago. Any questions? Oh, there's, and then we have Dan McCusker. Nice to see you, Dan. Any questions, concerns on the minutes from November 18th? Discussion?
No, I make a motion to approve them as written.
Thank you.
And I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any no? Great. The minutes pass. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Linda, wonderful job on those minutes. I read them all, and you do a very concise job with them. Thank you. Third order of business now is committee discussion. I have number one as the Embury Road physical barrier request follow-up. Mark, to Mr. Tate.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. So back in November, we discussed there was a resident request to have a physical barrier placed along the road frontage in front of their property with concerns that vehicles heading eastbound on Embury were unable to navigate the curve in the road, and concern over them, entering her front yard, hitting vehicles in the driveway and or the house or herself. Based on that, we did reach out to the sheriff's office and request that they pull the accident data from 2018 to present. There were 6 accidents that they were aware of at that kind of location and general area. They ranged from unsafe speed and traffic control device disregarded to illness and fatigue or drowsy, unsafe speed, sun glare, unsafe lane change and unsafe speed, and the last one being slippery or pavement slippery. Based on those, in my opinion, a lot of them were driver at fault, and that it wasn't that the road itself was unsafe or would require or necessitate an actual barrier.
Okay.
So just looking for kind of the group's thoughts now that we've received that supporting
I've got the email. We've got this back from the sheriff's office. Eric summarized that, shared that with the committee, and as well as the accident history, in that area.
Any questions, concerns? How would we like to proceed with this? Your opinion, Mr.
So I think at the last meeting we tabled it. I think at that time, to my recollection, the committee wasn't supportive of adding any additional barriers at the time, but wanted the accident history. Wanted to get why the reasons, which Eric kind of went through and shared. Is it consistently somebody, not proper signage? Is there something else on the road that's, that's causing that? And it seems like it's kind of a variety of different things. So the committee had tabled it, back in November, pending getting the additional information from the sheriff's office. So we kind of had that background data. So that was the reason to share that tonight, is to kind of give that information and see if that, provided anything additional that, before the group made a decision that was different than.
Isn't there like a box there that's like a RG&E or telephone or some?
So there is a Frontier Communications
Okay.
does have a communication pedestal
Right.
control box along the property line. It is set back from the road a little bit. It's actually closer. It's kind of tucked into those pine trees.
Right.
In between the kind of the driveway curb cut that goes back to Rochester Lawn Care
Right.
and that first residential property, which is where this request stemmed from.
And
So
no
tucked
one's-
in those trees, you can't see it in the aerial, but there is something there. There are bollards around that because it is off the road for a safety measure, but the request was more specifically to place, along the edge of the shoulder from Embury Road.
Okay.
Essentially from the intersection of Qualtrough up to, and possibly
She
even
want like
past
a
the
guide
driveway.
rail or something?
That was the request.
And Eric, all the accidents were all right in that stretch?
I don't know for sure. I don't have a map showing
Yep.
exactly where, but what the sheriff's department had pulled, kind of given the location and the intersection and the proximity to that, those were all that they came up with.
Hey, Debbie, that doesn't surprise me. I drive by there a lot, and people don't always stop at the stop sign that tees into Embury from Qualtrough, or they're turning and they're not looking at cars coming around the curve down, coming from Creek Street on Embury. So that doesn't surprise me. And again, nothing that a guide rail would help. It's just people just need to be more aware of how they're driving, and
Correct,
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, if she wants something, she should put a fence up along the side of her property, but that can't go all the way down to the road, but whatever.
I know in that past meeting last year, I think you guys discussed possibly having her put her own trees or something to
Right.
give her a little bit more of a buffer there. But I'm not sure how much more she'd want out there, because it would be a sight distance thing, I believe, for them too, a little bit,
Yeah.
getting in and out of their driveway.
She does have the, possibility of doing more plantings behind and kind of further or closer to the house, behind the existing hedgerow, or to try to, make that area a little more dense. In front of that, within the right-of-way and, specifically within the easement that Frontier has, to get to their equipment, she would not be able to install trees there.
And we couldn't put a guide rail up there, because how would they get to their equipment?
Yeah.
Between the guide rail and the trees, it would be a tight squeeze for any of their vehicles.
So I guess the suggestion, at this point, could the suggestion be to maybe do the speed count, equipment back out there again sometime? And
Yeah, I mean,
have people
I
in
can
this-
certainly add it to our list, just to put, the feedback trailer device out, just to help residents realize what speed they're actually traveling. It is a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit through that area. I think I guess the committee's response, more or less, to her should be that if she wants to do something different on her own property to help, buffer or protect her
right.
house, she's more than welcome to, but that it would be at her cost on her property.
Right. And, and I can appreciate, 6 accidents and may not sound like a lot to a lot of people, but since 2018, I think any accident is a lot of accidents in front of your house or near your home. But if we can educate people a little more on, that's one of those areas, and there's quite a few in this town, but that's one of the areas, and people are speeding and trying to be cognizant about the curves, and I know exactly what you're talking about. The cut through, and I know in the mornings and so forth, there's a big cut through.
Oh, yeah. That's
over
my-
there.
that's my cut
That's your
through
cut through. Yeah.
To
so-
avoid the schools.
Right. And as I live in one that's a cut through too, I know. And I think that if we can do that, and maybe the speed trailer out there, in especially now, maybe that'll get people. I know we don't put it out until the
Just
weather
wait
gets a
till-
little bit
Yeah.
better.
We're not plowing anymore, so we don't bury it on the side of the road or damage it. So
Right.
we got to wait till.
But I think if we can maybe be a little more cognizant, I don't know, can we let the, Captain Alberti know that that's an area that we'd like a little more
and through this
patrol?
committee and other items, we, share if it's an area of concern. In the past, supervisor would sit with the sheriff's office, and I'm sure that's continued to kind of share, spots and locations if we have concern from residents, people are going too fast or inattention, and I think that's our next one, is
Well, now I'm
inattention
going to
to
have to behave.
traffic control devices. But, that's a lot this committee looks at. Those are enforcement things. If people
Right.
are speeding, if people are not paying attention to traffic control devices, that's an enforcement thing. That's not an additional signage or something that, typically falls under the purview of this committee.
So what were the contributing factors to the one that she had someone go onto her driveway and hit her car?
I believe that accident was prior to 2018, so I don't know for sure.
Okay, and then, did anybody do an accident diagram for these? What were the accidents? Were they all off-road? Were they fixed objects? Where exactly were they in relation to the curve?
I do not know. Just from the email that we received back from the sheriff's office, it included the contributing factors, but I do not know the exact location. I don't know the direction of travel.
Right.
If they were all eastbound, if they were all westbound, if they happened at the intersection, or if it was some combination of all three.
Yeah, I would need to see more. I'd need to know which direction they were going. I mean, the tangent run out for Embury is clearly eastbound toward her property.
Yep.
How many of these were going eastbound? Where exactly did they leave the road? What kind of incident were they? 4 of them were related to speed, 4 of the 6. So unsafe speed. I think there's still a lot of unknowns here.
Yep, agreed.
The 6 is deceiving, because you don't know how many of those were in eastbound direction. She's primarily concerned with eastbound vehicles, right?
Correct.
Exactly.
It could be one of those 6 was going eastbound, the other 5 were going the other way, because it's the same curve
Well, and
going.
we also don't know the proximity. That's just the closest intersection. So in the
yeah.
police report, it may just say Qualtro and Embury.
Right.
Tag that, and you could be 1,000 feet down the road, but they tag that as the closest,
Yeah.
intersection.
But the police
so-
report would generally have the direction of travel.
Police report should have a little bit more detail where exactly it
Yeah.
happened, and it certainly would have the direction of travel and the accident type
Yeah.
and severity. So I don't think we have enough information to make any decision on this yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we get them?
That's just my opinion.
No,
But I would
it's nice that we have an engineer that is thinking that way. I don't think that way.
And I would concur that the likely recommendation to the property owner is to put something in your own property outside the right-of-way that helps in whatever manner. Putting another fixed object or something else like that to redirect that's not what you want to do. And signage and other things are not going to help. Any of these likely will still occur regardless of the signage there, if there is any that can help, but it's properly signed already. And build a berm.
Installing a fixed
Not easy.
object could create a bigger safety concern.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there needs to be a little bit more analysis on this.
Can we go back and ask?
We can go back to the sheriff's office and ask and
Department
see
ask.
if we can get the actual reports and then do a deeper dive or, more thorough analysis.
Put that on, can we put that on hold?
Okay, yeah, we'll put
Do you
that as
need
a
a
held
motion
item.
for something, for that, to put that on hold?
As long as the committee is supportive of it.
It certainly seems reasonable to me,
Me too.
get more info.
Let's do that. Let's look for some more information on that from the sheriff's department on those. Agreed, Dan. Good idea. And then see exactly where those accidents had occurred, and maybe if we can put the speed trailer back up there on the list for spring coming anyways on that road.
I'd also like to see the factors associated with the accident that occurred on her property.
Okay, good. Any other on that? Okay, thank you. Mark, next, again, is the Embury Road and Scribner Road motor vehicle accident.
So I received a call, I think it was either last week or the week before, from a resident that got into an accident at this intersection. Thankfully, she was okay. The other person was okay, but she just shared that it was, the other person didn't stop going through the four-way stop. So she called and requested, whether we'd consider putting in a blinking red light at that intersection. So obviously, we had this meeting coming up next week. I said, first and foremost, share it with this committee here. But obviously, we'd need to do, again, get the accident data, and do a bit more analysis at the intersection. We don't immediately jump to, here's the next item. We need to assess what happened, the why, the what, and then get into it a little bit further. So I said I'd share it with this group. I don't have the accident data as of yet, but did speak with the resident, said that I would share it with the group, and then we can get the accident report, and then if, because of that, it makes sense, we could do a, get, if there's any other accident data at the intersection, and then whether we got to do a traffic study of, are people just ignoring the stop signs?
Mm-hmm.
Is there, a sight distance issue? Both roads are pretty straight and level, so I don't think that's.
I think it's people just ignoring. I travel through that, Mary does too, a lot, because it's on the way to our homes. And I stop completely and watch the traffic coming, because I've sat there and just watched cars just fly on through like they're on their phones or something. They don't even see the light or the stop sign. And there is nothing that would obstruct a view. Sometimes I've seen occasionally a county sheriff officer sitting in the parking lot there at the park and watching that intersection. It hasn't been recently, obviously, with snow and whatnot, but I think that they've been watching that because there are so many people that just fly right through, and it's usually the people going down Embury. I don't usually see it going down Scribner. I would love the blinking lights like they have at Wayland and Baird. I mean, you can't, but I get that because you're coming up a hill to it, so it's like, okay, up here you're going to have to stop. That's why the blinking lights. But this is all flat. It's just people not paying attention.
And I've mentioned this intersection before in this committee.
Yep.
For near misses, because I've seen it mostly go on Scribner, though.
Oh,
as opposed
see?
to
Okay.
Embury.
We've got
And I've seen people just go right through it. Years ago, there was no four-way or whatever, always stops at that particular intersection. But people today should know that they've been in place for quite a while, so not that.
Any other thoughts on the committee? Or?
I thought wasn't this already double posted, but I don't see it now.
You mean there is a sign as you're approaching, at least on the Scribner part,
Stop
telling you
signs on
that there's
both
a stop
sides.
sign coming, and then, because that's my mental, okay, I need to really
I
hit
don't
the
think
brakes here.
No,
And then,
I don't want it.
You're
You're
referring
thinking
to
of,
stop signs on both sides,
yeah.
double posted. That's what I was.
That's
what I was thinking.
That's at Harrison Suites Corners. We've got that. That was the most recent one. We did that with the stop signs on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't go from nothing to a blinking light or a signal. You would do a stepped-up approach, which would be the next step would be larger stop signs, double posting,
Right.
Yeah,
advance
there's a
warning before you put in a
Stop
light.
ahead and escalation. So, and she was
The
reasonable.
question is not so much, are they not stopping, do they not see it? Then they may not stop, but are they just ignoring the stop sign, then it doesn't matter, right? Because you have good sight distance here, oftentimes people can see if there's someone approaching and they're not going to stop, so there's the rolling stop, right? And that's why you.
problem is, I've seen so many that don't even slow down. They're
That's
going
what
like
I've seen.
40, 45 on a 35, and I'm stopped, and I see them coming, and I'm thinking, that white car ain't stopping, and sure enough, right by me through the intersection. They don't even slow down. Obviously, he's very important and in a really big hurry, but I didn't feel like being T-boned that day.
Can we look into how many of those
Yeah,
stops, how
we'll
many-
ask. I mean, this was just last week,
We
so
are-
I'll reach out to the sheriff's office.
Right.
We obviously need to, do that, for the other application already, just down Embury, so we can get the accident data. Is this,
And find
not
out
a
if there's
one-off,
accidents
but,
in there, too.
the reason why, what factors involved with that, and then, we can, just to Dan's point, there's other escalation that, would take place, long before going to we're looking at the option of a traffic light.
Well, and I think you need to do the same thing again. You need to look at the accident history, the patterns, and really evaluate that to see. I mean, perception sometimes is much worse than reality. there might not be as much of an issue here with the data, other than a perception that there's an issue. So that's why we look at the accident reports and we map it out and see what really happened, what kinds of accidents
How
were
many,
there,
right?
how severe they are.
Yep.
There's no stop bar there. Is that only required if there's a crosswalk?
Well,
I guess
stop-
what's the requirement for a stop bar? When
No, you don't necessarily.
So I think the other side of the intersection has a stop bar here,
Yeah, there's one there, there's one there.
and there's not one on this side. So maybe they've striped it because there was crosswalks, but you can have a stop bar without
Okay.
a crosswalk, and that could be one of the items that comes out of it is, you know. And this is, I'm just looking at
What's the date of that picture, Mark?
images from June of 2012,
So
so,
it's this old, yeah.
so 10 years ago, there may be stop bars and everything else, it's just an.
I think there are stop bars now, if I think correctly, but the sidewalks, the crosswalks are there because those are the only, that's the only side of Scribner up at that end that has a sidewalk, and then Embury is the only side that comes across with a sidewalk on Embury also.
Yep.
So that just makes sense for sidewalks to be there.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Sounds like we'll table this one as well and get the data, and then obviously we can take a look at that and then bring this back to the committee for further discussion.
after we look at, sounds good. Any other questions and concerns on that?
No.
That's good.
Thank you. Put that on hold for next month. Next is number 3, Mark, Liberty Street and Route 441 traffic light request.
Yeah, so this got passed through the supervisor's office, was a request from a resident for consideration of light at Liberty Street. Obviously, 441 is a state highway. That doesn't fall under us, but again, you know, share it through this group first, and then we can ask the state to take a look at that. You know, at one point in time, obviously Liberty Street is askew from Mott's Lane. You know, you'd have to look at some alignment issues with that, but, you know, we obviously have to look at traffic counts on Liberty Street, what the, you know, number of cars are, the proximity to the existing traffic light. They had also requested a traffic light at the end of 441, so the expressway portion with the intersection to Penfield Road, and I know this group had talked about that
Yeah, years ago.
3 years ago. I know
Yeah.
we'd kind of gone through that, and obviously having a traffic light at the end of an expressway area, you know, the proximity to, you know, to Penfield Road, you know, at that location, this group, you know, talked about that. So just wanted to share it with the group. We can obviously pass those requests along to the state. It is their road, it is their, you know, they have control over, you know, those intersections. But since it, you know, came in recently, we thought it would share with this group first, and then we can pass those requests on to the state, and then they can respond accordingly to
And I know,
do that.
as I live in that area and travel that Liberty Street, Penfield Road, I try to make rights to go down. And I know there's sometimes that it's very difficult to see it with that berm, with the hill, when you're looking, you know, east out to trying to turn right. But that it's a tough turn in too. I mean, there's a lot of times when you don't want to make a left turn onto Liberty from Penfield Road, because if the cars are queuing back too close to you, you're going to get rear-ended. And I did get rear-ended once years ago, but right at that. So it is a tough. It seems to get a little, and I think one of the reasons is right now the sight distance was really bad a couple weeks ago with the snow pile up. But as it is in a lot of areas, trying to look and see, even looking to see if somebody's coming down Penfield Road so you can make the turn. But it is it's a tough turn right, and I see a lot of people try to go left out of there, and I'm always amazed that they can even make it out of there, because on the other side is that sign up by Mott's Lane that says no left turn. And I know there was a question that people had wondered if there was more that could be done on that to help
Yeah,
so
well, you
people
look-
could see.
You look across the street, and that's exactly what, you know, they have there. This is left turn only.
Right. says no left turn, and people make left turns on that all the time.
Of course they do.
And, but I guess wasn't one of the questions, they had talked about some kind of wanting a mirror, a system like, one of the residents mentioned to me something about wanting some kind of a mirror so you could see who was coming up on
441?
You're looking
441 left. But that really wouldn't, I know that it's being a state road, that's not something we could even consider, right, Dan? I mean, that's,
Right, Dan. Oh, Dan.
The best course of action is just to turn this over to the state.
okay.
Turn the request over to the state. I've got to believe this has already been studied. So it's a state highway. The town really doesn't have jurisdiction here. Turn it over to the state engineers.
And then we talked about Liberty Street. It's been many years for that, but more recently we did have some, brief conversations about the end of the Penfield Road where it separates from 441 there, and we did talk about that. But just kind of wanted to highlight it to this group, share that, the request concern came in. I'm sure viewers at home are watching and they've had similar questions, concerns, so it's just helpful to kind of share jurisdiction, and a lot of people don't understand that just because it's in Penfield, the town of Penfield does not have jurisdiction over all of these roads, intersections, locations. Yes, it's in our town, but there is a hierarchy to it, so it's helpful to have these conversations just so as residents are watching at home, they understand the town of Penfield. Well, from this committee, we can share and say, hey, we'd like the state to take a look at it. They will do such, or do so. We can't say, hey, we're the town of Penfield and we want a traffic light at this location. It's not our road, somewhere with a county road, and then again on a town road. So thought it was good for information. As you said, you and a lot of your neighbors go out this way. So if this person had the concern, I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. So it's just kind of a good informational item that we can share with the state. When we get that state information back, they study it, we can push it back through this committee, share it, and again, use this as a source to, share that information back with the residents and let them know, what was done, what was analyzed, what was studied,
Okay.
and what that response was. So.
Okay.
Yeah, my guess is there's
Very-
already been a study on this, especially since Mott's Lane would have had to go through a permit process when we did the changes there. So there's probably already an answer to this question, and if there's not, then the state will study it and come up with an answer.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's not really, I don't believe this is something for the committee other than just awareness.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's no vote to take on it. It was just an educational item, and just knowing that this resident came up with this comment, question, concern, I'm sure many others do. So rather than just passing it directly on, I figured it was a good educational item, and other residents would have a similar question. Or
Fair enough, very good.
I like
Thank you, yeah. Look for an information back from the state, maybe sooner than later. Sooner.
say if it's already been studied and they've got that analysis and that study, then yeah, it could be a quicker turnaround.
I mean, it is a congestion issue too, as you mentioned. If you're coming back from the city at 5 o'clock and you get a car that's trying to turn left onto Liberty Street, you're basically making it a one-lane road at that point because everybody can only pass on one side. So there's that issue too, which I'm guessing, as you mentioned, they would have studied that and taken that into consideration. But.
Yeah, there are a number of factors in this particular corridor, especially with proximity to the other intersections, the other signalized intersections, the volumes and peak hours. There's many factors that go into that decision-making. So, as I said, I don't know for sure off the top of my head if there's already been a study, but my guess is there would have been. So, and if there wasn't, then the state will do one.
And I believe like the Mott's Lane, we put that in about, it's at least 10 years, 12
Seems
years?
about 10, yeah.
I was going to say 2014, 15, somewhere in there.
Okay. So we should have maybe even some records on that that we can look at as well.
Yeah, I don't think this is the first time a request for a signal has been brought up
No.
for this
No, it
intersection.
is.
So
And
that's why I say I'm reasonably confident this
Say
is already
back when
been
Mott's
studied.
Lane went in,
Right.
there was conversation about, hey, we're putting Mott's in, would it, make sense or be time to, look at a traffic light? So I'm sure it was analyzed at that point in time.
And we always wanted to, I mean, if in a perfect world, I think we put a grant, we request, then Congresswoman Slaughter, we were looking for a grant money to try to do a pedestrian bridge over Penfield Road. I remember that was, 15, 20 years ago that we were
Yep, I remember.
hoping we put, and of course it didn't go anywhere, but that ideally would be, we've always wanted to have an easy pedestrian way to get across Penfield Road. It's, the intersections, I cross Penfield Road a lot at the Four Corners, and you do have to worry about.
Oh, yeah, even that's dangerous.
You have to
Yep.
watch people, make sure people, because they do blow through those lights as well. I mean, as we all know, people have to, and the speed is an issue, too, on all our roads, especially 441, that we're constantly concerned about that. So as a town board, we hear about that, quite a bit. So we're aware of it. So thank you. If we can get some information from the state, that would be great. At least we can maybe work on them for maybe they have some new ideas on how to help us a little bit. So, okay, any more on that? We're good on that? Okay. We have one held item. I know we're keeping that, I believe, Eric, on the Qualtrough Road and Hallmark Road, the dual arrow sign request, until we get more information. Correct? Good. Okay, thank you. Committee, any new business tonight?
I did receive an email. It actually came in through our clerk's office and was sent over to me yesterday from a resident requesting information on what specific laws pertain to or specify what drivers should be doing when they approach intersections that do not have yield or stop signs. That information, I'll certainly pass this email on to the group, and we'll gather that information and respond to that resident once I have the answer for them.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. It's good information. Now we're down to the next order of business is public participation. I do not see anyone in our audience. Dave downstairs, anyone on tonight? Call in? I don't think so.
You're clear downstairs, Deb.
Oh, okay, thank you, Dave. Thanks. Brian, no public participation. I guess our next meeting, our next on the agenda is our next meeting will be March 17th, 2022. Do I see a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Lori. And a second?
I'll second.
Mary, a second from Mary. So we are adjourned at 5:36 tonight. So I hope everyone has a very safe and a nice evening. And thank you again. Thanks for everybody for participation in this my first meeting here. You guys are all wonderful to work with. Thank you.
We're looking forward to working with you, Deb.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice night. And thank you to PCTV downstairs for all you guys do. Have a nice evening.